Hi, and welcome to a old segment with a new twist. This is Every Rock on the River, which is a Substack segment of Pomegranate and Magpie, where I share vulnerably memoir style about my 16 plus years as a backcountry whitewater guide and maybe a backcountry guide in general. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and kick this off. I think that in the last couple of years, my MO has been to try to get something done and finished rather than trying to make it perfect. And I'm noticing that that's coming up a little bit right now as I'm recording this because I'm very unprepared. I just know that this is something that feels important and the way that I'd like to pivot this segment because um, for a lot of reasons. So I guess how I want to begin is I want to start by saying I titled this segment of memoir pieces Every Rock on the River because when I started river guiding, I was not a very good river guide. And it took me the process of hitting and getting stuck on and being tortured by every rock on the river until I learned how to do this well. And that the embodied learning that you can only fuck up so many times before you start to get it right has been a lesson that has really, really stuck with me since then. And some of my deepest, most important, intimate relational lessons have come out of that process. So I'm trusting that in this process of trying to learn how to share my stories, I'm going to just run into every rock on the river of storytelling and that I'm going to do this wrong in so many ways before I eventually get it right. And what I mean by right, I guess, for myself is in a way that I feel comfortable sharing, even if I make mistakes, which I will. And I already have. And I think that's why there's been such a hiatus with this process because I made a mistake this last summer and it has stunted my ability to write and to share vulnerably and honestly. It's stunted my ability to hold clear boundaries that I know I should be holding. And it has left me feeling really confused about how I want to interact with a community that I have loved and felt very injured by for most of my adult life, which is the river community that I grew up in. Um, so I want to start by saying that I'm afraid to share these stories. I'm afraid to share them honestly. I'm afraid to share them vulnerably. I'm afraid that people will perceive me in a way that maybe if they liked me before, they'll like me less. I'm afraid that people might like me for sharing certain things for the wrong reasons. um, and I'm afraid of injuring some of the really good work I think is happening in the river corridor and in my community because I'm sharing one voice of maybe many stories out there that highlight things that need to change within that community before it becomes a healthier one down the road. Um, And I'm also afraid that I might not highlight enough of the good work that is happening and happening in a way of great integrity out there. So um, know that I'm doing this process humbly and that I'm willing to be wrong and that I'm also not willing to be attacked for it and that I will have boundaries around people pushing back on me too hard or in a way that I don't feel like I want to entertain being pushed at, and that there's a certain way and level of respect that I um, will require of feedback in this process. So, um, with that out of the way, I think there's another reason I wanted to switch towards a more personal video podcasty blog style of sharing some of these stories. I still intend on writing them down and I still intend on working on getting them out of my system and externalizing them through writing because that's a beautiful way to share. But I think that what my guiding and backcountry career has shown me is that there is almost nothing better than sitting around a campfire with someone and listening to story and sharing story back. And so I think by shifting to this type of a platform or this type of a way of sharing these stories and vignettes and memoirs and what I'm still wrestling with and haven't quite figured out how to articulate well in writing, I maybe am going to get a little bit closer by out loud, externally, verbally processing those things. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm just letting this be a juicy little introduction this month, January 2025, of saying every rock on the river is back. And the format's going to shift a little bit. And it's going to be emergent until it finds its rhythm, as most things in my life do. And I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for being here and sharing story with me. And I hope this is implied with my other ways of writing and communicating. But if it's not, I want to be clear and explicit about it, which is I'm sharing my stories because I think there are more stories to be shared about backcountry guiding culture, about whitewater culture, about the Middle Fork of the Salmon culture in particular, about Idaho culture, about rewilding colonized spaces of backcountry conservation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My voice is not to overshadow someone or take space away from other people, but actually to invite and inoculate and instigate more story sharing. So if what I share and say inspires a story in you, I would love to hear it and I would love to celebrate it. And hopefully, I get to a point with some of my small business work or creative work where I could even help bolster those voices a little bit. So that's the hope. And I am, hoping to celebrate any stories that get stirred up in you too throughout this process. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting my work. And I look forward to a new year of storytelling together.